So recently I found out about some of the rules for the WGA and SAG strikes that apply to influencers. Apparently they're not allowed to promote anything from any struck companies even if it's natural and non-paid. And even after looking for a long time I still have no idea how this applies to movie reviewers like me. It's been difficult for me, but I've decided I'm not big enough to be an influencer, so fortunately I don't have to worry about this. But just to show solidarity, I'm going to be spending less time endorsing stuff from these major companies. I'll still be talking about them, but I will be putting more focus on independent or foreign movies, or even just mainstream movies that I wasn't a fan of. You'll be seeing more single reviews. If I see a bad movie or a good movie from a non-struck company, I'm not going to pair it with an endorsement of anything from a struck company. Which brings us to Secret Invasion. It's from a major company. This is a single review. Secret Invasion is the new series from Marvel on Disney+. It stars Samuel L. Jackson, back as Nick Fury. Now there's no superheroes here to steal the spotlight from him. He gets this show all to himself. Now if only he can get a show that's actually interesting. It had promise. It's more of a sci-fi spy thriller. The Skrulls, the shape-shifting aliens from Captain Marvel, are living among us, and some of them are planning to start a violent revolution, and Nick Fury needs to stop them. It's more serious than Marvel's previous work and has more prominent themes of oppression and prejudice. It probably wanted to be Marvel's version of Andor, except not nearly as well written or interesting. Maybe the first 2 episodes are slightly more interesting than the first 2 episodes of Andor, though not nearly as well written. But while Andor gets way more interesting as it goes on, Secret Invasion stays at roughly the same pace. For the first 5 episodes, my Letterboxd rating was at 3 stars. It was a mostly dull show, but it had enough good parts for me to begrudgingly keep it at a passing rating. For most of the first episode, I was bored, but then the ending kind of convinced me that it was going to get better. But then it didn't. But every time I considered giving it a lower grade, something happened to convince me maybe not. Or maybe it was just that one time I remember. During one episode I was dead set on knocking it down to 2.5, but then near the end of that very episode there was an action scene involving the president's car, which I thought was pretty cool. In fact, I might go so far as to say that it was a good look at what could have been, a darker, no superpowers version of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But even then I was convinced it was just a story that didn't have enough material to make it into a full miniseries. I'm not knocking it for being slow, I'm knocking it for not being intriguing or well written enough to get away with being slow. It didn't even have the kind of paranoia that this kind of show should have. It should feel like The Thing or something, where anybody around Nick could be a Skrull and we wouldn't know, so we don't trust anyone. But I still believed it would pay off in the end. Maybe not be great, but at least be something I'd begrudgingly admit was decent. And then the final episode came. It didn't pay off. This episode's still really dull. And after all this small-scale adventure and attempted political intrigue, it all comes down to a big CGI fight where people fly into each other. All that's missing is a blue beam being shot into the sky. Except this isn't even that exciting as a big CGI fight. Every other big CGI fight that these shows get criticized for doing in the final episode is probably more exciting than this. It can't even come close to the president action scene from its own show, and every other one of those CGI fights fit in better with their shows as well. They're at least somewhat consistent with what the show was before. Even WandaVision, still my favorite Disney Plus Marvel show and the only one that I thought was better than Peacemaker, felt more consistent between the final episode and the rest of the show. Yes, the rest of the show was some weird psychological thriller thing in the style of a tribute to sitcoms, but it still almost built up to the final battle. This one just jumps from subdued spy thriller to badly done superhero cliche in like 1 episode. But of course the main issue isn't that it turns into a CGI fest, but that it just never gets more interesting. It never pays off. It's still dull and pointless. It has a downer ending that feels like a cliffhanger leading to something potentially more interesting, except this is a miniseries so there's no second season. I know it'll probably be continued in some other Marvel show or movie, but that only makes it feel even more pointless. 6 hours just for a prologue to more interesting stories. I was disappointed in Ant-Man and the Wasp, but for all its problems it was at least entertaining. This is just a waste of potential, a dull show with a really bad finale.